in Doctor Who's long history, the revival of it in 2005 is a period which I think still has a lot to be explored and said about it. So I'm delighted to be joined now by a first assistant director from the time from Block 2. So I would like to introduce Lloyd Elis. How are you?
I love the way you call me Lloyd Elis, Alex. I'm very, very, very well. So, truthfully, the name is Lloyd Elis, but kind of known within the industry as Arch, and I call others Arch as well. That is another long story to be told on a different time, Alex. But yes, I'm very, very well, and the first assistant director's role on that wonderful moment in Doctor Who revamp history. I have to admit, I was very, very, well, I still am, it's been a few years since then, and a lot of things happen in all our lives, but that was a really special, proud moment in my life, in my working career life, of being able to join the wonderful Phil Collinson, Russell T. Davies, Julie Gardner, and especially Ross Lynn, the director, who brought me hand in hand into that block from previous work we'd done with each other. And I'm very thankful for him for putting my name forward to get interviewed by that genius team that was on it then, and to join such two wonderful episodes as well, and also one famous episode, I think, within those two was The Unquiet Dead. The Unquiet Dead, I believe, hit one of the biggest audience figures of all time on the BBC network. And that I feel really proud about, But more than anything is to have known to be part of a legacy, really, in Cardiff, which till this day has really put Cardiff and Wales on such a big map, a media map in the whole world by now, and making it such a vibrant, creative workplace now for others to join on such great scales, from American TV shows to UK shows. It's a great place to live and work. And I found myself still within that niche, trying to fight myself around the production department corridors, but in different roles now. I've led myself from being a first assistant director up the ladder, as they would call it, towards production management and line producing. But taking us back to those days, yes, I was the first assistant director, creating the schedule. I would like to do this, but things we keep from our past. I have this box at home, Alex, full of lovely trinkets, but that was the schedule, believe it or not, for both, for our block, really, because we shot this very much, dare I say, we would never have done it multi-episodic, because we were going between two massive different genres and timelines, although the Doctor can, but we can't really, in regards of costume and makeup and looks and sets of the show. So I think, if I'm rightly in saying, we shot, yes, we did. We shot up The Unquiet Dead first within the block, and then we then shot End of the World. I think mainly we did that because, strange enough, I think that, the first block had encountered the guinea pig aspect of the show without a shadow of a doubt, and they did it very well. But, there were things to learn from the first block that we could reintroduce into the second block. And we possibly found out very, very fast that to deal with a more, should I say, conventional drama mode in The Unquiet Dead, although it was period and it was challenging and it had snow everywhere, and it had the wonderful Charles Dickens in it, played by the lovely Simon Callow, and it felt to us as possibly the best way forward in easing from a block 1 full-on scenario, moving same crew into a block 2 scenario, that we would, dare I say it, start gentle, although that show brought its own wonderful challenges towards myself, and to include the wonderful crew I had around me. But yeah, so it was a great moment, really, a great moment to know that we were, well, not knowing then that we were making amazing television, but to find that when the whole series went out and the way the audience embraced it and supported it and encouraged it along the way, and to find that it's now what, remind me, I'm a very old man, is it 10th series? 9th series? I'm confused.
I think we're on to, about season 10, no, season 13.
God, are we up to 30? Well, I missed 3 years somewhere. I don't know where. I must have time travelled somewhere or other, but in the wrong direction. But you know, not only Doctor Who came onto my work map, you know, I was very, very, very lucky then to have known these wonderful people at BBC Wales, and to get involved then with Sarah Jane was just fantastic, with Graham Harper directing, who's a good old mate, and we'd worked together on Casualty before coming together on Sarah Jane. And then I did a little guest appearance with Josh Agnew on Aliens and Wizards, and I did a little guest appearance on Class, because the wonderful producer, Derek Ritchie, who everybody knows well, is producing Doctor Who as well as Aliens and Wizards, I believe, and script editor on Aliens and Wizards, and then of course he produced Class, was the gentleman that was my second AD at one point during the time of making this amazing show, right above my left shoulder, Being Human, because wonderfully, as a first assistant director, I got to join that series, back end of series 2 in Bristol. And I remained with the show then, moving it to Cardiff. And I was on series 3, 4, and 5 of that. And that is another moment in my life which I'm extremely proud to have been a part of something different, and very audience appreciated, you know. So yeah, so those moments in my life have been good, great moments.
And in terms of that Doctor Who universe, you say you worked on Doctor Who, Sarah Jane, and Class. How different were those shows to work on? Because, of course, a lot of the similar faces were across all of them.
Very different, of course, because each one of them brought in a different nuance within the script, output, within the script page, I mean, within producing levels and expectations, within the brief guidelines of the show driven by the execs, but more than anything within the director's visuals, you know. That's 3 different directors there. Ed Bazalgette, am I saying that the right way? I don't think Bazalgette took me on as a couple of insurance days. I stepped in to guest on behalf of another first. Lovely to work with that gentleman. And then the same, Josh I'd worked with on Sarah Jane, of course. So we knew each other from past. So Aliens and Wizards really became an easy breaking ice moment for me to join them on quite a big day, really. It was in a local comprehensive school in the Cardiff Vale. There was a lot of children around. It was a tough day, really, for a first assistant director. So with a drone above our heads. So it was a quite, well, I call it a drone. Those days, they weren't the drones that we know them as now. They were more like helicopter, small miniature model helicopters with cameras on, who are quite scary moments to have above your head. But, you know, but these things, they were very, different shows, although, strange enough, and I think this has always been the case, well, and I hope it still is, and I'm sure it is. Those crews and casts coming together on these shows seem to gel so well, seem to create some great friendships moving forward, great camaraderie on the set, and people really working for each other and out for each other in those shoot days. And you know, you do get that across many productions, don't get me wrong, but it just seems to be extra special in that environment. On all those shows you've mentioned, it's I think the personalities, the people that come together, special moments, really. So hopefully that answers some part of the question.
And talking of special moments, your work on Sarah Jane was not only alongside the late Liz Sladen, but also
Yeah,
brought Nicholas Courtney back onto our screens. Were you aware that he was someone special? How was he to work with?
wonderful, absolute gentleman, true gentleman. It sometimes you pinch yourself having those moments of working with class actors, people that are revered to and looked up to in our industry, and yeah, and also that they come with such great history from the previous days of Doctor Who. Those are the days that I was watching Doctor Who. Those are the days that Lloyd Elis, as you call him, was hiding behind his mum and dad's sofas, or I make that sound as if I'm living in a posh mansion, but sofa, I should have said, or armchair. So those are my moments in my life, I was viewing Doctor Who early 80s, so I was 10 years old then, and having also stupidly watched Jaws, being the first shark film of Spielberg, which till this day is the best. I had to hide twice in my early young life, but possibly it helped me move onwards to aspire to two things, really. And that was, I think I said to myself, I'd love to work on Doctor Who when I started my career in firsting, and lo and behold, I did. And strange enough, I said to myself, God, I would like to do two other things in my life. I'd like to be the first assistant director on a James Bond film set. Didn't make that. But I'd also like to work somewhere other for Steven Spielberg in some kind of capacity, making his tea, might not even be there, but just do something with this gentleman, just be attached. And there we go. We ended up to my right-hand side, and I'll bring it forward. This is going to happen, everybody, but Peacock channel, I shouldn't have had this, by the way, but I've got it on the quiet. The Peacock streaming channel for NBCU out in America, of course, are about to stream, put out live, transmit, if you want to call it, a new 9-episode season 1 of Brave New World, which I was thankfully the production manager during 2019, which is shot in London and is shot in Wales. So that's exciting times to come. So look out for it, everybody. A little plug.
But amongst working for Spielberg and all of these productions in Wales, you have found the time to come back to Doctor Who, both with Diana Rigg on the Crimson Horror, as well as the 50th anniversary, which I suppose if you're going to do Doctor Who, the 50th is a great story to work on.
Absolutely. I was mainly more to do with second unit work on that because of I'd say because of the amount of work that was to do with that episode, and also because also everything moved towards the 3D technology aspect. So that was a lot of additional second unit work requirements, so me knowing the staff as was structured in there, some wonderful people in there during the time, I will very much put out the wonderful name of Tracy Simpson, who is dear to us all within the industry and has been very loyal to me across the years and championed and given me the opportunities. So I thank her on many, many aspects for pulling those strings behind the scenes to get me back involved, and a few others along the way as well. But and I have to admit that was a great day, because obviously when you get called to do a guest appearance, doesn't necessarily mean you know who you're guest appearing with. So that was a great moment, because the Crimson Horror brought me into touch with Saul Metzine, the director, but also Diana Rigg and her daughter, who's amazing actors to have that privilege and that honor to share a set with, and I have a little story from that moment, and it's a trooping story because it's my huge professional rig. That was a bit of a Freudian slip. Professional respect, not rig, respect to Dame Diana Rigg, because obviously taking into account that I'm a gentleman and she's a lady, there was a moment where upon her death that she was supposed to lay on the floor, and these were the scenes that I was guesting that day on. And how challenging was that? You know, I came into a set of people that I knew some of the crew, which really helped, but to not know the actors, and how do you approach the biggest actress in the whole wide world? Do you mind, madame, if you could lie here for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes? We'll keep it as simple as possible, but you know, it's like, it's the most horrible moment. But do you know something? I only asked her when I had to, and she was there like a shot. I've never seen such energy, compassion to get a job done, whatever it meant or was. And that really made me feel, you know, I'm very blessed to be in this business sometimes with some great people around me.
And did that feel like the same show you had started off 8 years before?
Well, that's an interesting moment, isn't it? Because there I go. I was working with two different doctors, and whatever the script page might say, there is always that moment in any of these scripts, and I see it now of our new doctor, Jodie, and she's doing it so well. There's a rhythm to the speeches or to the monologues of the famous doctor, and those rhythms are pretty much fast-paced and driven and energetically driven, which you really do need that cast player to deliver with great excellence, and they all have along the years in many different ways. But yes, it was an odd moment because Chris Eccleston had a certain way of working, and also did Matt Smith on the set. So I wish I could have also done the David Tennant bit in between, because obviously everybody loved the way he worked as well in a different way. So and to have had a bit more doctors to compare, but comparing only two, very different in the way their on-set manners were, in the way that they you know, got going with getting into the part and getting onto the set. Both professional and both wonderful people, and did it in different ways. Doctor for me never changes, because the Doctor's the same as it was in the 1980s for me. You know, he needs to deliver scientific sense and mad sense in some moments, because you need to lose yourself in it. Thirdly, bring the what's the word for it? The excitement, the trepidation, the drama of you know, facing these terrible Daleks on some occasions, and really, you know, I was watching those doctors back in the 80s, and I was on the set pinching myself, looking at these wonderful sets, although the sets have changed, because I could see, you know, the gaffer tape and the foil in the 80s. Now you can't. Now you can't. Now you see unbelievable, beautiful, driven, practical sets, and which are also augmented by VFX, out of this world VFX, above our heads, around the corners, into the distance. You know, if you turn yourself up on a beach around South Wales and you make it Mars, then I kid you not, I think that is an accolade and an award for all involved.
Quite right. You know, it's amazing how versatile Wales is. And you also, though, worked alongside Matt Smith for the Gunslinger prequel. How did you become involved in that?
Well, that's a very, very interesting question indeed, and I'm going to bring these little things up very quietly. Here's the script from that moment. I don't know if you can all read it. There we go. That was a really proud moment. A long story short, Neil Gorriton, Millennium Effects, who I set out my journeys with very early on, really. Doctor Who was the first journey of meeting him and his team. on the second block with Unquiet Dead prosthetics, and more than anything, the End of the World prosthetics. There was a few on that to get through. And then, of course, leaving Doctor Who, I then went back on to Being Human. And, of course, they were our wolf makers on Being Human, and the wolf transitions. And so really, more than anything, I got to work quite closely with Neil across the years and his team on the floor. And I truly valued them, respected them. We worked well together. And I felt very honoured because Neil had his moment, I think what he'd been waiting for a long time, his directorial debut moment with putting the visual aspect to this script. And he emailed me right off the hoof and asked me if I'd come along and guest first for him for 2 days and get this job done for him. And there I found myself with Marcus Wilson, producer, signing the contract. And the next day in Rothlock Studios on the set in the military lab shooting the Gunslinger. And God almighty, I was so impressed with that prosthetic and the visual effects enhancements with what a great episode that was as well, you know. So and a great moment in Doctor Who history.
Well, I know we could talk all day about Doctor Who and some of your other work, but I think on that note of a lovely partnership coming together again, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time, Arch. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Alex, thank you. And some great questions, and I hope I answered them okay for you.